She wore power like perfume. Calm, composed, commanding. Evelyn Cross wasn't just my wife. She was a high-end lawyer who could slice through witness testimony with a single look. I loved her, trusted her. But the day I followed a cheating CEO on behalf of a client, I found something else entirely. There she was, Evelyn, locked in an elevator with a judge, his hands on her body, her lips on his. My heart didn't just break. It shattered in silence. The woman I vowed to protect was the same woman who played puppet master behind courtroom curtains, using lust and leverage to win impossible cases. And I was just the fool who married her. Before we dive into this real-life roller coaster of betrayal, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you. If you're already subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support keeps these powerful, heart-hitting stories alive. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story that just might mirror your own life or someone close to you. These stories are raw, real, and made to hit home. Let's dive in. My name is Jackson Cross, and I used to believe I had the perfect marriage. You hear that a lot, right? Perfect. Picture perfect. Like love some kind of framed painting that never cracks. I'm a private investigator based out of Boston. Been in the game for over 10 years. I've followed cheating spouses, embezzling CEOs, and crooked politicians. I've seen people at their worst. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I saw when the lens turned toward my own life. Her name was Evelyn. Evelyn Marie Cross. She wore tailored suits better than any man in court. High-end heels, low patience for fools. She could walk into a courtroom and freeze every neck in rotation. She was brilliant, fierce, ruthless, and somehow she was mine. We met in D.C. during a case that nearly got both of us arrested. I was tailing a corrupt developer. She was defending him. Sparks flew. Arguments, drinks, secrets. We moved fast. Maybe too fast. She moved up the legal ranks like a storm. Started working at one of the most powerful firms in Boston. I stayed in my lane. Investigations, background checks, surveillance. From the outside, we were power couple goals. But beneath all the black-tie dinners and polished smiles, there was a rhythm I couldn't hear. A tune she danced to alone. Still, I trusted her. Cool. I trusted her. The case that changed everything started like any other. A wife hired me to tail her husband, CEO of a software company suspected of embezzling. Nothing unusual. I followed the guy to a downtown hotel. Standard playbook. Take photos, timestamps, pattern of behavior. He stepped into the elevator with someone. I couldn't see who right away. I moved to get a better angle. That's when the doors started to close, and I caught a glimpse of her. Evelyn, my wife. In a silk blouse I'd never seen before. Lips pressed against his neck. Her hand trailing below his belt. I froze. The camera shook in my hand. It wasn't the man I was paid to follow. It was the judge on his upcoming fraud case. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. The woman I came home to every night, the one who kissed me goodbye that very morning, was using her body to bend the law. I waited hours in that parking garage, just sitting in my car, watching the footage on my camera like some sick documentary, rewinding it, zooming in, hoping I got it wrong. But no, there she was. Same wedding ring. Same perfume I bought her last Christmas. Same cold calculation behind those eyes. She wasn't cheating for love. She was cheating for control. That night, I went home and kissed her forehead. She smiled, poured herself a glass of red, and talked about her long day at court. And I played along. But something inside me began to break. I didn't know if I was more hurt as a husband or impressed as a detective. That was just the beginning. They say betrayal doesn't always come with a gunshot or a scream. Sometimes it walks in wearing red heels and a calm smile, like everything's fine. That night after I saw Evelyn in the hotel elevator, I didn't sleep. I laid there next to her, eyes open, listening to her steady breathing. Her back was to me, like always. Even in bed, there was a distance I hadn't noticed until now. In the morning, she kissed me on the cheek, told me she had an early court session downtown, and left in a flash of confidence and Chanel. I sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the cup of coffee she brewed for me, like a man who realized the poison was in the smile, not the cup. I'm Jackson Cross, a private investigator, and I've built a career out of paying attention. My entire livelihood is based on details. But I missed this. Or maybe I didn't want to see it. It wasn't enough to catch her once. Not for me. I need to know how deep it went. Was it a one-time mistake? A lapse in judgment? Or was this part of something much, much bigger? So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I started digging. I went back through Evelyn's old case files, ones where the outcomes always felt unusual, like that double murder case in Cambridge where the evidence mysteriously vanished mid-trial, or the big pharmaceutical fraud where the whistleblower suddenly retracted their statement. At the time, it looked like expert lawyering. Now, it looked like manipulation, and one name kept popping up: Judge Raymond Heller, the same man I saw her with in the elevator. I found 3 cases she won in his courtroom, high-stakes civil litigation that should have gone sideways. But somehow, she got the outcome she needed. Each time, her firm celebrated with champagne. And each time, Evelyn came home late, saying the firm was burning midnight oil. Except now, I knew what kind of oil was burning. I followed Heller the next week. Watched him leave the courthouse, drive to a low-key members-only club in Back Bay. He went upstairs, private VIP level. 10 minutes later, Evelyn showed up. Same heels, different dress, same cold elegance. She greeted the hostess like she was family. I knew that place. I'd investigated a blackmail ring there 2 years ago. The place had secret recording rooms, VIP areas with soundproof doors, and clients with too much to lose. I didn't follow her inside. I didn't need to. I knew. She wasn't just sleeping with Heller. She was owning him. I made a list. 8 names. All major clients Evelyn had represented in the past 3 years. All had charges dropped. All had Evelyn listed as lead counsel. And every single one had some quiet link, no matter how thin, to someone in the court system. A judge, a district attorney, a prosecutor with an off-the-record connection. Some were obvious. Others took time to piece together. A charity donation here, a sudden career boost there. She was building something, a web, and she was the spider at the center. And the worst part? She didn't need the money. She was already paid handsomely by the firm. No, this wasn't about cash. It was about control. Evelyn didn't just want to win cases. She wanted to manipulate the entire ecosystem. Judges, prosecutors, clerks. She had them all on invisible strings, pulled by secrets, seduction, and leverage. I checked her phone records. A burner number. She used it only for one contact. R. That same number also showed up in a few internal memos from her law firm. Coded client notes, encrypted files labeled Asset R and Insurance H. R had to be Judge Raymond, and H could have been anyone. I started remembering things I'd buried. Time she came home flushed, eyes sparkling like she'd just danced on the edge of danger. Once, she joked about how everyone has a price, even people in robes. Another time, I found a strand of hair on her coat, too short to be hers. When I asked, she said it must have been from the courtroom or dry cleaner. I wanted to believe her, because you don't just accuse your wife of being a legal puppet master, especially when you still look at her and see the woman you married. But love's not blind. It's willfully ignorant. A week later, I went to the courthouse, pretending to be waiting for a client. I lingered in the hallway outside courtroom 3B, where Evelyn was scheduled for a preliminary hearing. I heard voices. 2 men. One was a prosecutor I vaguely recognized from a tax evasion case. The other was a young associate, new suit, eager voice. She's untouchable, man. She's got Judge Heller in her back pocket. The prosecutor snorted. It's not his pocket she's in. Laughter. Low, bitter. My fist clenched. It wasn't just a theory. It was common knowledge, at least behind closed doors. Everyone knew. Everyone but me. I came home early that night. Evelyn was in the kitchen, reading a deposition file, sipping her 3rd glass of wine. Long day? She asked. I nodded, eyes never leaving hers. I tailed the wrong man, I said. She looked up slowly. How so? I stepped closer. Found something I wasn't meant to see. There was a flicker in her eyes. Not surprise. Not guilt. Calculation. She set her glass down. In our line of work, Truth is subjective, Jackson. And just like that, she walked out of the room. No denied. No panique. She knew, and I knew. The only question now was, who was playing who? There's a specific kind of silence that fills a marriage when one partner knows the other is lying. It's not screaming. It's not slamming doors. It's her brushing her teeth while you watch her through the mirror, knowing her mouth has spoken promises to someone else. It's breakfast at the same table, buttering toast like everything is fine, when everything is broken. After that night, Evelyn and I played our parts like we were on a stage built on ash. Smiles, chatter, routine. But under it all, something had changed. I wasn't investigating a suspect anymore. I was stalking the woman I married. Evelyn didn't just cheat. She calculated. Every step she took was mapped out like a chess match. Every affair, every connection, every favor, used to leverage courtroom victories. There were at least 3 judges, 2 prosecutors, 1 state senator. Not all were sexual, but some clearly were. And I know that sounds crude, but that's what it was. Seduction used like a scalpel, precise, clean, effective. She didn't fall into bed with these men for passion. She used them, like legal weapons, like loaded guns with black robes and gavels. I sat in my office one night, staring at the evidence I collected. Photos, call logs, voice memos, emails written in legal code, talking about softening a bench or dimming resistance. She wasn't playing dirty. She was the dirt. I reached out to a contact, Angela, a former paralegal who had left Evelyn's firm last year after a breakdown. I'd worked with Angela once during a fraud case in Boston. She trusted me. We met in a coffee shop outside the city. She looked over her shoulder 3 times before speaking. Evelyn doesn't just work the legal system, she whispered. She owns parts of it. Judges owe her. Prosecutors fear her. And the firm, they let her do it. Because she wins. So they know. I asked. They pretend not to. They're complicit. She's their star player. I showed her a photo, one of Evelyn stepping into a hotel with Judge Heller. Angela nodded slowly. She has insurance on all of them. Videos. Emails. She calls it her vault. If anyone crosses her, they fall harder than she does. That's when it hit me. Evelyn wasn't just manipulating the system. She protected herself with blackmail. A failsafe. She had a vault. Now I needed to find it. If I could get to it first, I'd have leverage, evidence not just of infidelity, but corruption, conspiracy, and felony-level manipulation of the justice system. So I turned to Evelyn's digital life. She was too smart to keep anything on her firm's servers. Too smart to use her home desktop. But she was predictable in one way. She reused usernames, encrypted file formats, and relied heavily on cloud backups with rotating 2-factor codes. I cracked into a Dropbox folder labeled EK_client_docs_2018. Boring name. But inside, a subfolder titled Judicial Punto. And within that, videos. Screenshots. Shalog. Some are grainy hotel room surveillance. Others were voice recordings from closed-door meetings. Every single file was named with initials. JH. Darum. Sanch. It didn't take a genius to match names to faces. She had enough dirt to burn half the state courthouse to the ground. What do you do with the truth? I stared at the files. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could turn them in, blow the whistle, end Evelyn's career, possibly get her disbarred. But that would also make me the man who exposed a legal scandal of epic proportions. My wife at the center. We'd both be dragged through the mud. My name, my business, our families, everything. And then there was the other truth. I still loved her. Even now, even knowing what she did. I love the idea of her. The woman I married. The fierce, brilliant version of her before she crossed over. But that version didn't exist anymore. Evelyn had become something else. I waited until Friday night. She was home, had poured herself a glass of scotch, and was reading over court notes on the couch. I sat across from her, phone in hand. You know, I've been following you, I said. She didn't even flinch. I figured, she replied. You're better than most of the men I've hired to follow other people. I tapped the screen and played one of the recordings, her voice, laughing with Judge Heller in a hotel room. She stared at the phone, then back at me. You went into my vault. You left the key in too many doors, Evelyn. She stood slowly. So what now? She asked. You going to ruin me? Leak it to the bar association? Blackmail me like I blackmailed them? I looked at her, my wife, the woman I made vows to, and the stranger who now stood in her skin. I just want the truth. The truth, she whispered, is subjective, Jackson. You know that better than anyone. You slept with them to win cases. Outmaneuver them, she shot back. Don't reduce me to that. I was never a pawn. I was the queen. And queens use every tool they have. She stepped closer, voice quiet now. You don't think men have done worse? Built empires on lies, favors, and deals in dark rooms. But you weren't supposed to be them, Evelyn. You were supposed to be better. Her eyes softened for a second, but she didn't apologize. She didn't deny it. She just said, I'm sorry I underestimated you. And she walked upstairs. And just like that, there was no apology. No tears. No begging. Just a woman who saw the mask fall and chose to keep wearing it anyway. I didn't follow her that night. I sat in the dark, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound, and stared at a woman I loved who had become a legend in a courtroom and a stranger in her own home. And I realized sometimes the worst betrayals aren't about love. They're about power. You ever watch a building implode? 1 second it's towering, proud, made of concrete and glass. The next, it folds in on itself, slow at first, then thunderously fast. Dust clouds rise. Debris rains. What once looked invincible becomes rubble in less than a minute. That's exactly how Evelyn's world came down. And I, her husband, the private investigator she never saw coming, lit the fuse. The morning after our confrontation, she acted like nothing happened. Scotch on her breath. Digged boon. Designer heels. She left for court at 8:15 a.m. sharp. I gave her a 30-minute head start, then made a decision that changed everything. I copied her vault, and I didn't leak it to the press. Not yet. I sent one file, a hotel video of Evelyn and Judge Heller, to the State Judicial Oversight Board. No name, no return address, no flir, just truth. I expected it to sit in a queue, ignored like most whistleblower tips. But I forgot how hungry the system is for scandal, especially when it comes wrapped in sex, corruption, and high-profile courtroom figures. 3 days later, Evelyn walked into a courtroom like she always did, unshakable. She was set to deliver closing arguments in a major pharmaceutical case worth $80 million. She never got the chance. Before she could speak, a bailiff handed her a note. Her eyes scanned it. She didn't blink. She folded it, slid it into her purse, and turned to the bench with a calmness that was terrifying. Your Honor, may I request a recess due to an urgent matter? The judge obliged. But Evelyn never returned to the courtroom. By lunchtime, it was on the news. Judge Heller recuses himself amid corruption allegations. Ties to prominent defense attorney Evelyn Cross under investigation. They didn't name her yet, but they didn't have to. Everyone in the legal world knew. By dinner, it wasn't just whispers. It was fire. Over the next 48 hours, the dominoes fell hard. Prosecutor Michael Raines withdrew from 3 major cases, citing conflict of interest. Senator Gary Hill quietly canceled a press conference and lawyered up. Evelyn's firm issued a vague internal memo. All allegations are being taken seriously. We are conducting an internal review. I watched it unfold from my home office like a man witnessing the eruption of a volcano he triggered. I expected Evelyn to crumble, but she didn't. She came home that Friday, eyes bloodshot, face pale, and poured herself another glass of scotch. They know it's me, she said quietly. Do they have proof? I asked. Not yet, but they will. And when they do, they'll burn me to save themselves. That was the first time she looked scared. Not broken, just scared. But the moment passed, and she straightened her back like a general going to war. I need to get ahead of it. Evelyn, this isn't a case. This is you. It's over. She turned slowly. It's not over unless I say it is. And that's when I realized something that chilled me to the bone. Evelyn wasn't just trying to survive this scandal. She was preparing to fight it. The next day, I found out my name had been submitted in a legal motion. Apparently, Evelyn accused an unauthorized third party of hacking her personal files, trying to cast doubt on how evidence was obtained. That third party was me. You're throwing me under the bus. I snapped. It's Jess Jackson, she said coldly. You moved. Now I move. I'm your husband. And you're also the reason this is happening. The woman I married, the one I shared a bed with, built a life with, was gone, replaced by a woman who would destroy her own husband to stay on top. That night, I packed a bag. I wasn't afraid of being dragged through legal hell. I was afraid of losing myself by staying close to someone who had already sold their soul. 2 weeks later, it happened. A leak hit the press. A full download from Evelyn's vault. Names, videos, texts, files, everything. I hadn't done it. I suspect someone inside her firm did, trying to distance themselves before the storm reached full force. But by then, it didn't matter. The Bar Association launched a formal investigation. 3 judges were suspended. 1 prosecutor resigned. And Evelyn, she was disbarred pending trial. Her empire, once built on charm, ambition, and manipulation, turned to ash. She called me 2 days after the story broke. Come see me, she said. Please. I went. Not out of love. Out of closure. She was in her penthouse, surrounded by boxes, half-packed, half-forgotten. A glass of wine in her hand. No muck-up. Just Evelyn. You know, she said quietly, I didn't set out to be this. Then why did you become it? I asked. She stared at me. No excuses. No speeches. Because it worked, until it didn't. We sat in silence. Finally, she whispered, Do you hate me? I looked at her, at the woman who had once danced in the kitchen with me barefoot at midnight, at the woman who had whispered dreams of kids, travel, retirement in a quiet town. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't know you anymore. She nodded, and that was the last time I saw Evelyn Cross. They say time heals all wounds. That's not true. Time doesn't heal anything. It just covers the damage in layers, like dust settling on ruins. But some stories need dust. Some ruins need to remain untouched. Because beneath it all is truth. And this is where it ends. After Evelyn's fall, everything felt surreal, like I'd stepped out of my own life and into someone else's. No more penthouse dinners. No more courtroom schedules pinned to the fridge. No more pretending. I moved into a small apartment on the edge of town, far from the polished glass towers where Evelyn used to reign. Quiet. Simple. A place where I could breathe. The divorce was swift. She didn't contest anything. In fact, she signed the papers with that same careful, surgical precision she used to win depositions. Tell them I cheated, she said to her lawyer. It's the truth. Let him go. It was the first time I'd seen her take responsibility for something without a strategy behind it. Maybe that was her final gift to me. Or maybe it was just exhaustion. Evelyn didn't go to prison. Power like hers doesn't crash all the way down. It just shatters into sharp, dangerous fragments. She was disbarred permanently. Fined. Blacklisted in every legal circuit across the country. Her firm replaced her within 2 weeks. She sold her condo. Left New York. Last I heard, she was living in Santa Fe. Goes by her maiden name again. Paints. Volunteers at some local women's shelter. Keeps to herself. Sometimes I think about visiting her, but I don't. Some ghosts don't want to be chased, and some stories don't need sequels. I get asked sometimes by friends, clients, the occasional barfly who hears my story, how did you not see it coming? And the truth is, I did. I saw the cracks. I saw the late nights, the whispered calls, the smirks she gave her phone. I saw her, but I didn't want to see her. I love an idea of Evelyn, the poised, brilliant woman who could command a courtroom like a goddess. The woman who made me feel like I was part of something bigger. But what I was really part of was a game I never understood. And when I finally did, it was already too late. There's no big romantic moment here. No dramatic reunion. No forgiveness wrapped in orchestral strings. There's just me, a man who walked through betrayal and came out quieter, wiser, maybe even stronger, but definitely changed. I still work as a private investigator. Still help people catch lies and untangle secrets. But I don't do it the same way anymore. Now, I listen closer, look longer, and I ask myself something I never used to. Am I part of the truth or part of the illusion? If you're hearing this story and you think it can't happen to you, think again. Deception doesn't always come with a dark alley and a ski mask. Sometimes it comes in a tailored suit, with eyes that burn like ambition and lips that whisper dreams of forever. Sometimes love blinds you. Sometimes trust is a choice you make long after the evidence tells you not to. And sometimes the person you sleep next to is building an empire of lies with your last name etched on the foundation. So take it from me. Love hard, but not blind. Trust deeply, but not without question. And when the mask finally falls, don't chase it. Walk away. Final words. Her name was Evelyn Cross. She was my wife. She was the sharpest mind I ever met. And she was the one who taught me that power, unchecked, can cost you everything, including love. And me, I was the man who caught her, not just in the act, but at the end. And even after all the pain, I don't regret knowing her, because even the most twisted chapters are still part of our story. And this one is now closed. Thank you to all my subscribers for following this dramatic, powerful journey. If you're not yet subscribed, do it now to help bring more inspiring and emotional stories to life. Hit that bell so you never miss what's coming next. We're just getting started. Let me know in the comments. What would you have done if you were me? Would you have walked away or fought for her? Evelyn's point of view will spin off in the next story.